Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there. I'm Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 241 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast, and it is appropriately named Ouch, because really anybody would say that after going back to work after a 9-day break, although my work week's been pretty solid. But I'm saying it because I really banged up my last 3 toes of my right foot just walking into the edge of a doorway because I'm cross-eyed and I missed. And this happens when you don't have good depth perception. Fortunately, nothing broke, but what you can't see in that picture is it turned black right across to the bottom of my big toe. And that was now, I think, 9 days ago. And my foot still looks a little funny looking, and I can't run yet, but it's definitely getting more normal. Let's put it that way. Swelling went way down. So there's my sad story. In the meantime, your comments are very welcome. I just found out over the break that I had been missing comments on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. I apologize if I missed one of your comments, but now I know why you all go to Ravelry to comment. Thanks for keeping the faith in spite of my whiftiness. In the warm thanks department, Lefty Rebel Knitter, who is eagerly awaiting CFR 11 signups. Just so you know, CFR 11, October 11th, I'm having trouble getting through to the front desk of the hotel right now. I am still trying. I'm sure they want us. They didn't offer me anything special this year because last year we didn't bring in 50 people. And this year also, I do not want the conference room. I think if we get any vendors, they are welcome to vend out of their own hotel rooms or suites. In the meantime, I do plan to ask some vendors. We'll see how that goes. They said they wanted to come back last year. Meanwhile, Lefty Rebel Knitter had some good ideas for classes. And anybody who's willing to teach, we're interested, let us know. And I also want to thank Loretta 1031, who keeps saying, hey, what are we doing about CFR? Yeah, I know, Rets, I know. What I'm not doing is working on it too hard because I'm swamped this summer. It's making me crazy. I also want to welcome Sprinkles and Limda, you know who you are, to my flock on Finch. Lovely to have you here. As always, I'd like to thank my community on Finch, on Reddit, and on the ground in the Santa Clarita Valley, but especially in this group of my listeners. You can see one of my burbs celebrating her 50th day in Rome. That completes Rome. There's no more exciting things. And I do believe that burb is Courage, and she went on to Reykjavik. Oh, no, sorry, it's Forthright, and she went on to Reykjavik. Courage finished London. Where is Courage these days? Oh, she's in Edinburgh. Of course, I just figured as long as she's already on the British Isles, she might as well take a train. So there we go. I think I've told you where we are on CFR 11. I did not get, believe it or not, on my vacation to do the work on it I'd like to do on it. That's okay. There's not a lot to do there. Mainly, we need to talk to the hotel, and I will try to start sign-ups ASAP. Hey, Gemma, this is disappointing, but what's on your hooks and needles? Well, I didn't finish anything. Aw, darn. But I didn't buy any new yarn. The stash toss is still at 56 in, 27 out for the year. Hooray. Now you'd think I'd finish the Virgo sweater because I'm on the sleeves. I'm halfway down sleeve number 1. And that, of course, would take, I think, 6 more skeins out of the stash. So hopefully I will finish a bunch of these things and take more skeins out. I did spend most of my week crocheting. I crocheted on the September sweater. And that second piece of the body is about halfway finished. I held it up against the first piece to check. They are the same length. That's a relief. And meanwhile, I finished the first piece of the alfresco. It is now turning into the sweater by Make and Do Crew. And I am started on the second piece. That is probably going to take me 5 skeins of a standard skein of cotton yarn. This happens to be Queensland's cotton. And I was trying to figure out, do I need 4 or do I need 5 for this? Because this is a fairly small project. It's really just 2 rectangles sewed together at the top edge and along the sides. I did consider just going in the round around the body and decided I'd rather put the seams in, because if you look at the color of the yarn in the picture, I kept the picture of the swatching. If you look at that colorway, you realize you're not going to be able to see any mattress stitch anyway, even if I used a contrasting color. But in that same color, the seams aren't going to show up. And I think, and I'm taking a leaf from the book of Gigi Knitmore on this one, I want the strength of the seams on this one. It will be hanging from my shoulders, so that's definitely a good place to have seams as opposed to just going over the top. And it will be along my sides. Now, here is what I learned. I've already done a crocheted sweater in cotton. It was Peyton's cotton from one of their patterns several years ago. I don't remember if I was doing this podcast at the time. It came out perfectly well. And then it stretched like crazy. Thank goodness I made it a tunic length to begin with. If you make something in crochet out of cotton yarn, you better count on the stretch. So yes, I am making these pieces just a hair shorter than I normally would, because I'm going to count on the stretch once it is washed. I don't even expect to block this, but if I do, that's fine to shape it. But I'm really trying to keep this to the minimum yarn. We'll see how that goes. Working on the quilt squares, what I've been doing is ironing all of the quilting fabric that I bought at Joann's final sale. I use the term sale loosely because the prices weren't that great, but they were still cheaper than any place else I was going to get this kind of fabric. What I was going for, I thought, was fabric for backing several quilts. What I realize I have is lovely cotton in pieces that will also make a few more nice, I believe I can do 13 seam skirts. Those are the ones that have one pocket. And that should work very, very happily. I'm getting a little bored with my skirts, which is ridiculous because I have millions of them that I've made. Meanwhile, in Dizzy Blondes, well, I am finally spinning the persimmon colored Lisa Souza BFL, which I've been referring to as kumquat. It isn't. It's really more peachy than a kumquat color, but it's not an intense peach like a peach. So there you go. In the picture, you can see the first braid of it. Got to remember the words here. Okay. And the picture's a bit sideways, but you can see the first braid of it. Half of it is on the floor, shredded up, because I do like the pre-draft dyed fiber. I find it just works better if you pre-draft it. It works better for me. You know, I'm not going to talk about someone like Jasmine Knitmore who can spin anything and make it look easy without drafting. I'm not going there. I don't have the time for that kind of envy and frustration. No, seriously, I'm just making an excuse to wave hello to Jasmine since I already waved hello to Gigi. At any rate, as I record this, I'm actually well into the second braid. This stuff spins fabulously. Now, Lisa said to me that she's not sure she can get any more of this base. I need to go over to her website and see if she did. Thank goodness I've got, I believe, a sweater's worth, over £1, of the colorway I really wanted a sweater out of, which is Giverny. And it's a pale green-blue sort of washed mix. It's so beautiful. Anyway, that comes next. But I really wanted to get the persimmon yarn tidied up and into skeins and bundled away into my storage. One of the things I did not get done was a stash toss. I really wanted to do a stash toss over my break. And then I wanted to just get a bin of leftovers and small yarns and donate them somewhere. Because why not? I've got so much yarn at this point. Why not? In the meantime, though, I did find another way to use it, and I will talk about that a little later. All of this spinning has been on my Electric Eel 6.1. I know Maurice has brought out a newer model with a stronger motor. I would tell you, if you're looking at an Electric Eel, the original 6.1 is working fine for me. I cannot turn it to full speed or the motor stops repeatedly, but I can get it up to about 1/3 of its dial. But this is more than enough to get the spin I need to make 3-ply worsted knitting yarn, which is what I've been making. Now, I still have an unopened electric eel because I was so frustrated with this one stalling. We'll see how that goes. I say all this because I am liable to take a few wheels to CFR 11 and dispose of them by raffle or sales. We will see. If we get Lexicom, she always gets first dibs on the wheels, though, because she is my wheel heiress, because that is a girl who knows how to spin. Let's get on to a strategy, shall we? The strategy today is simply to hydrate. I know I keep carrying the Ketorade recipe, and I would like you all to use the Ketorade recipe. It's a really good recipe. It's no carb. It's just as good as it's going to get for you. But I realize I keep talking about ways to exercise and all this other stuff, and I'm not saying one of the simpler summer strategies, which is don't forget to drink water. And I mean water. I don't mean water with other things mixed in. A possible exception is water with herbal or herbal tea. But if you put caffeine or sugar in your water, forget it. You're not hydrating. You think you are, and you're not, because those two elements are going to suck up more water than you get when you drink them in mixed with water. So when I say hydrate, I mean straight up water or herbal tea. Having said that, let's talk about why that matters, since I'm a psychologist. Almost every patient I see is both dehydrated and sleep deprived. In third place, I would say low on physical activity. But it is normal for Americans to be sleep deprived. I don't know about the rest of the world. Even retired Americans are sleep deprived. It's a very odd thing. And they get angry, by the way. Retired people are always saying, I sleep too much. Well, how much do you sleep? And then they say something reasonable, 8.5 hours. You know, it's like, that's reasonable. Well, I don't have anything to do all day. I don't need that much sleep. Well, if you don't have anything to do all day, number one, you might as well sleep. But number two, I don't understand what you're talking about. But enjoy your sleep. Your body's telling you what it needs. We do know the body will make up a sleep deficit, by the way. But hydration is the other big problem. First of all, if you're taking any kind of regular medication, especially the psychotropic medications, medication for psychiatric issues, you have to drink more water, and the summer is higher risk for you. You have to hydrate, okay? It's as simple as that. If you're at a lot of parties and you're drinking, tequila sunrises with your buddies out on the deck, whatever, by the pool, first of all, don't drown. Secondly, you have to hydrate. All alcohol is dehydrating. But the really important thing here is lack of hydration seriously changes your mood. Lack of hydration will make you depressed and or anxious. Oh, did I mention it'll also mess with your sleep? Yeah. Did I mention it messes with your meds? Yes, I did. The important thing is you really have to take hydration seriously. And most people do not. And I'm in Southern California, where we're out in the sunlight all day. Even when I'm sitting in my study here recording, I'm in the sunlight. There's still sunlight shining on me. You have to hydrate. There isn't a nicer way to say it. We talk all the time about what Americans called hangry, that is hungry and angry. Guess what? There's thangry, thirsty and angry. And it's much more common than you think. So for the love of heaven, please drink. How much do I drink, Gemma? Well, that's a good question. We know the 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water is not true. We know that at different times of year, you may actually take in enough water from the food you eat. Take it from a psychologist. This is not that time of year. I don't really know what to say, except I know when I'm fully hydrated for a number of strange reasons. Number one, I can run and exercise and I feel fine afterwards. Number two, I don't get fangry. I'm in a good mood even after a hard run. Number three, I'm not getting headaches. Number four, I'm not getting sunburned. That makes no sense, Gemma. Yeah, it does. When I'm fully hydrated, that means I'm going indoors routinely to get water. I'm not sitting out in the sun till I burn. Please, I burn like a Celtic girl. That is, I go from white to lobster red with very little in between, okay? That's how I know. But there are other more subtle ways. I sleep better. And here's the great one. I don't get sick. when I was running marathons, hydration was a full-time job. I would get up in the morning and drink a full 10-ounce bottle of water, 10 to 20 ounces. Then I would go out and run somewhere between 0 and 17 miles. Then I would drink another bottle of water at the 5-mile mark and at the 10-mile mark. I'm not kidding when I tell you hydration was a full-time thing. And I kept a case of water in my office, and I kept a 6-pack in the refrigerator that was hidden in my office. And I drank all the time, and I had to replenish my water stock at least once a week. And we're talking, I was replenishing about 50 bottles of water. Now, you don't have to do that. I mean, I was doing these insane amounts of mileage and hiking in those times. But here's the interesting thing. In the 3 years that I worked my way up to and through marathoning, I never got a cold once. I remember going into work back in the old days of the original podcast, in fact, and everybody in my building, and there were about 100 of us, was walking around sneezing except me. And finally, the senior admin looked at me and said, "How is it you're never sick?" That's how. So that is hydration, and I'm going to tell you, take it seriously. Meanwhile, oh shoot, no hiking because I bashed up my foot. So I'm really not even wearing shoes. I'm really trying to let my foot recover. This is making me insane. This is making me crazy. My husband was begging me to get on a train last weekend. I was like, no, sorry, no can do. Got to protect the foot. When you are a runner, you learn that you have to recover from your injuries before you try again. Bashing a swollen foot inside a tight running shoe for 45 minutes is not a solution. I don't know what I'm doing this weekend. We'll find out. I was hoping the foot would be fully healed by now. No, but it's yellow instead of black and purple, so that's good. I did not race, of course, in the red, white, and blue 5K, but my son did, and he did a very respectable time. He did 10-minute miles. It was hot. So let's move on to the third running gear check. And again, you can use this for any exercise gear you like. I'm up to shoes and socks, which get a segment of their own. First of all, if you exercise in any format, including yoga, you should have dedicated socks. You should not have your socks falling down your leg, riding up under your arch if you're like me and you have fairly high arches. I wear 2 types of socks in this life. One type are my hand-knitted socks, and they are never used for exercise. The other type are cotton running socks. They're cotton blended with some kind of synthetic to make them breathe and make them not fall down. They give them a little bit of stretch. Mine are from Roadrunner Sports. I take these guys seriously. I replenish the stock. I have enough for 2 weeks consecutively. I don't kid around with this. These things can be tight. I don't wear them to bed at night because I find them a little constricting if I lie down in them too long. But I would say that you should get yourself some of these no matter what exercise you're doing, except with yoga. There are more specialized socks for yoga where your feet and your heel are touching the mat so you get a better grip. A sock won't give you a very good grip on a mat. Having said that, please take your socks seriously. That goes for hiking, elliptical, biking. Yes, biking, please. And now this takes us on to shoes, because if you're going to take your socks seriously, you're going to have to take your shoes seriously. Now, if you're a runner or you're a walker, I would say in a guarded way if you're a hiker, but that's a different shoe store. But what I'm going to say is find the dedicated store that specializes in the type of shoe you use and get yourself fitted. This is where we spend our money when we are athletes, okay? All my other stuff, I'm running in running clothes that I've had since before my son was born. Yeah, it doesn't smell as bad as you think. And it also doesn't stand up by itself in the closet. You'd expect it might. In other words, I will wear my running gear till it collapses. The exception would be my shoes. My socks never have collapsed. Those things are made of steel, I guess. You have to get the shoes right. That means you will get them wrong. You may not be able to return them. You will, in other words, I hate to say this, waste money. That's why we have the places you can donate your exercise shoes. We have the links there, Soles for Souls or One World Running in the show notes. Now, if you're looking at running shoes, there's a virtual fitting tool on Roadrunner Sports. I've always found this really helpful because there's so many brands out there. Now, I was running in Hoka Hokas, as I think I've said many times. As I've lost weight, Hokas are a little too heavy and a little too cushioned in the wrong places for me. If you are losing weight, if you're changing weight, going up or down, your foot really will change significantly. So if you have a significant change in weight in either direction, please expect to get your shoes refitted. Also, because my arches are very confused, they started out high, then they collapsed. They seem to be getting high again as I lose weight. I always buy fitted insoles. Shortcut, Dr. Scholl's, right off the rack at your local pharmacy. But I go to Roadrunner Sports, they have a machine. Important to note, when you stand on the machine, you're not in your shoes. So the soles that you get will fit any shoes you're in. Important to know because these soles cost over $100. So I would recommend that you use the virtual fitting tool on the Roadrunner site if you're looking at running shoes. Or walking, by the way. I think it now is adjusted to use for walkers as well. And I would go to a dedicated shoe store for hiking, for running, for biking, and make sure I'm getting fitted. It really, really matters. Also, every time I go to Roadrunner for this, I get the biases of the store clerk. Why is that important? I used to be a very heavy runner, a Clydesdale. Now I'm actually a reasonable weight for my height. But the store clerks are young people and they're running marathons. So to them, I look heavy. So they're always trying to put me in heavier shoes than I want. But they do know a lot about shoes. So you have to negotiate those biases. And this is why I start with the virtual fitting tool. I come in and I say, this is what I'm looking for. And I use their website's descriptors, a medium weight, a high arch, 1 to 2 inches above in the heel, that sort of thing. I use their language to narrow it down because you will deal with the biases, including about your weight, of the store clerks. It's okay. Don't get mad at them. Upcoming, I have the Mountain Gallop on August 16th in Tehachapi. Yes, I have a hotel room up there, and I'm quite looking forward to that. And you can see the rest of my schedule there. I am still hunting for a jingle jog in December. I've zeroed in on one down in Woodley Park, but I don't know if I want to drive that much early in the morning. We'll see how I'm feeling then. We'll see, because I strangely can't find one too local here, which is bugging me. In the Fluffy books, I finished My Lady Jane, and to be honest, I've moved on to its sequel at night, which is My Plain Jane, which is a hilarious retelling of Jane Eyre. And the writers are very, very smart about this, and I recommend it. Alas, the reader, Catherine Kellgren, died quite a few years ago now, like 2009. She died of cancer, poor thing. She was very young. So while the reader on My Plain Jane is good, I'm always going to miss Katie Kellgren. In the meantime, I am finishing As I Stitch, India Holton's The Geographer's Map to Romance, because it's getting to the steamier parts. And I don't want to listen to that at night because my son's on the other side of the wall. I don't feel like listening to India Holton and teaching sex ed at the same time to the 19-year-old. Something I really like, and this is going to sound paradoxical because I do and I don't like it, it's a knitting machine that I got at Barnes & Noble. You can see a picture of it in the box. Things you should know. The box lies. It shows pictures of teenagers in hats that they made. No, you can't do that unless you make it flat and then stitch a seam in it. They're implying it will make a tube big enough for a hat. It won't. You know it lies because it says, wow, we're giving you more than 700 feet of yarn. Kids, that's a skein. They give you a standard skein of size 4 worsted weight acrylic yarn in an eye-burning color, but I actually like the color. You can see it in the pictures. Now, what will this machine do? I believe it's 40 stitches total, and it will do a tube or a flat. Seems to me that the tube is a 3.5-inch diameter. Kids, that's not even a sock for me, I don't think. I haven't tried that yet. It certainly isn't a good wrister for me. Now, I made a tube, and I realized this is very much like the experiment I did when the wonderful Steffi Jo gave me a tube of her yarn. It was sock yarn, beautiful sock yarn, knitted on her sock knitting machine. Same skills here. I knitted a tube. They have instructions that are almost in English. I mean, they're written in English, but it's obviously not a first language for the writer, but they're very understandable. And they're good enough. I got by using their instructions. I tried to follow it very literally for this review. You can see the tube I made. I dropped one stitch for about the first 2 inches. That was fine. I just kept going with the tube till it was as long as I wanted, which was about the length of my lower leg, I think, which I was not looking to make a sock. It just seems like a good comparison. And I also had at the top about 2 inches with that skipped stitch. So I took my size 7 needles. Mistake number 1. I would now probably use size 9s because it's 4 stitches per inch. But I ran size 7s through, and I then ripped back all that yarn where the drop stitch was, and I'm using that to knit a 2x2 rib on that end of the tube. The other end of the tube I sewed shut per their instructions, which is perfectly good. All right, when I finished doing the ribbing to my satisfaction, I am probably going to go back, cut this in half, and then consider how I want to morph this into some kind of midi. What do I want you to know about this machine? It's being sold as a kid's toy. No. They say it's age 6 plus. No, no, no. Here's why. You have to have some pretty good knitting skills to do anything with what you make on this machine. Now they do show a flat scarf with a fringe. You could also make a tube scarf. It'll be about 3.5 inches wide with a fringe to shut the tube. That will work. And your kid could do that. You could teach them how to make fringe, but you're probably going to have to help. But if you want to do anything else, make a hat, make a sock for a toddler, which you could do, or make some kind of arm warmer, leg warmer, or midi for maybe a tween or younger. If you want to do that, that's going to take some really serious knitting skills like picking up stitches, not being afraid to cut the thing in half, ripping back, threading a needle through to pick up stitches, things like that. So this is not a kid's toy. The sad news is it's just not good enough to be more than a kid's toy. The hooks on it are clearly suited, and the size of the gauge it makes, for Aran weight yarn. I will probably try it with a bulky, because I think you're going to get 4 stitches per inch no matter what you do here. And I will experiment on the tube just to see what I can get. It was fun to play with. That's why I bought it. I had a great time with it. I'm just going to give it away. Anybody who comes to CFR, it'll probably arrive there with me if you have somebody who wants it in your family. It's a nice gateway if you want to teach your kid how to do some knitting projects the easy way. Sure. I don't think this is a good way to learn to knit, if you're a kid, by the way, because I think you're going to get the wrong idea about the fun part of knitting, which for me is just stockinette stitch. If you start doing this, and then all you think of as knitting is picking up stitches and ribbing and all that, yeah, not so much. But there it is. This little knitting machine that was on the shelf in the kiddie toy section at Barnes & Noble. Meanwhile, Project Back episodes on Proton, episodes 141 to 180 are in the folder, and it's the same link it's always been, and they will be up for the month of July. Put a lid on it, no experiments there, but I continue to carry Ketorade because remember the strategy was hydrate. One last thing in put a lid on it. I have a late-breaking tea tasting. Now it's summer. And this is the time of me making iced tea every day passively by just putting tea leaves in a strainer in a quart jar, mason jar with a lid on it, you know. And I got my strainers, I think, from Plum Deluxe. At any rate, I tend to take advantage of every sale they have for things that are herbal and make good iced tea. And I will try a lot of new things. Here's one of the new ones. This is Plum Deluxe's Tango Grey Herbal or Herbal. It is rooibos tea, so in other words, no caffeine but tastes like it has caffeine, orange peels, apple pieces, rose hip, mandarin pieces, carrot flakes, sweet blackberry leaf, lemongrass, safflower, rose petal, blue cornflowers, bergamot oil, natural flavor. So you can tell this is a kind of Earl Grey clone made for those of us who drink herbal. What do I think of it? I think this is now on my list as a favorite. This is amazing. This is very much reminiscent of their black tea, Lady Grey. And they tried to make herbal versions of that before, I suspect. This is where they hit the mark. If you want an amazingly flavorful, lively, floral and citrusy tea that is still herbal, this is the one. So I highly recommend this Tango Grey Herbal. I wasn't going to put this into the episode, but then I had it yesterday and said, oh my goodness, I got to tell the listeners because I just think it's so sensational. Now let's get on to the blather. Well, I believe it was Ann McGee last week who said, hey, you don't talk about the dogs. How are the dogs doing? No, I don't. And I really should. Why don't I talk that much about the dogs? Because we are just leaving their boisterous teenager phase. Let me tell you, having 2 teenage 75-pound dogs is no laughing matter. They're all those years of aging dogs with the occasional sort of young adopted dog. These dogs we both raised from puppies, and boy, are they handfuls. They're both very intelligent. Queenie is the rocket scientist, I must say, the collie. But there's our wonderful Captain, who really, we still call him a lot. Although I think my husband finally decided that he's a she, and he calls her. And I have to tell you, it's been a great lesson in pronouns just from that. Just realizing that nothing changed no matter what we called them. As simple as that sounds, we learn a lot from having pets. All right. Captain has the same problem that our late collie Eleanor had. She has some kind of chronic illness that makes her nose sort of peel and bleed, especially if she's in the sunlight. So she spends most of her days indoors. Captain is 3/4 Newf and 1/4 Border Collie. This means she's a Newf with a really painful consciousness and intelligence that Captain gets guilty. Captain feels strong emotions. Newfs feel strong emotions, but Border Collies take it into a whole new dimension of being self-conscious and feeling guilt and shame. Captain is the sweetest girl that there ever was. That's the Newf in her. Not that Border Collies aren't sweet. They're tremendously sweet. But Newfs are just the nicest people you'll ever meet. It's just a weird coincidence that they're in dog suits. Fortunately, Captain is a 3/4 size Newf. And so she is the boss. She is the one who disciplines Queenie and sets her straight. If Queenie is doing something obnoxious, Captain will come over and fix that. They are both very cuddly. That when we brought Queenie home, as I've often said, Captain, who was really crazy at the time, looked at us and said, wow, you gave me a puppy. Thank you. And she immediately did a personality change. She became the Newf she was meant to be. She calmed down and she became the parent. And so she still is, but she allows that Queenie is the attention hog. If Queenie is outside and Captain is outside and I am outside, Captain will stand back and let Queenie get all the love because she's letting her baby get love. That's who she is. We make a big deal out of keeping them apart so that Captain does get love. Captain is the one who is dedicated to my spouse. She will sit and stare at him for hours. She has never gotten over that initial fascination that made us adopt her, which is to say, in this tidal wave of puppies, it was Captain who came and sat at my husband's feet and simply stared at him as though he were the 8th wonder of the world. She still does that. Curiously, at night, she wants me. She comes into the bedroom with me when my husband isn't there yet, climbs on the bed and wants me to hold her and cuddle her and pet her and talk to her. Captain also developed a silly streak, which a veterinarian pointed out to us after they neutered her. Captain will throw herself at your feet and suddenly become babyish, roll on her back, put all her feet in the air, and demand that you love her and squirm everywhere. It is the cutest thing and is very puppy-like that she just gets silly and demanding of attention. The other funny thing about Captain is when she's had enough, she's had enough. So you'll be petting and cuddling her and she'll suddenly stand up and go, right, there we go, that's it, that's my quota, and she'll get up and walk away, which makes her very like our cat Minerva. Captain is just one of the world's most decent beings. She's simply fantastic. Neither of them are especially well trained because we didn't, because we're older now and we're not doing things like dog sledding and dog joring with a scooter and all that. Those are things I've done in my past with their predecessors, but not so much. Also, these are both very heavy-coated dogs, so I also don't take them running with me. Now, taking a regular collie, a rough collie like Queenie running, is a waste because those collies never break a trot if they can help it. You will very rarely see Queenie run. Eleanor would run at times when she was playing with my son, like when they would play collie football. Queenie, even less than Eleanor. She is a herding dog, and her job is to trot endlessly for hours, and let me tell you, she will do it. We have seen her go on and on and on trotting. So that's what Queenie does. Queenie is the family rocket scientist. She loves to solve problems. The latest one being, we had an old beat-up tea kettle, and one day my husband got a bee in his bonnet. We have a giant water dish for big dogs. He filled it with water, and then he put the kettle on top of the water and let it float. And the handle was sort of flopped over to the side. Queenie did the most wonderful piece of collie work I've seen in a long time. She walked up to the bowl. It's her bowl. She really cares about it. She realized there's this giant thing floating in it. She saw my husband put the giant thing in the bowl. So she acted like a Western European sheepdog at its best. She checked with my husband. You're the shepherd. Did you want that big thing in the bowl? She kept looking at my husband. My husband would just look down at her and laugh. And finally, she went over and nudged the thing to watch it float and to see how it worked. She looked at him again. Is this okay? He was laughing. He said, good girl. So she decided that this was some kind of game. And she very carefully picked up the handle in her mouth, and she held the tea kettle up, and she lifted it out of the water, took it to my husband, and laid it thoughtfully at his feet, and then sat down and looked up at him with expectation. Well, of course, she got an enormous amount of praise for this. But what was interesting was, like any good sheepdog, she went to the shepherd and checked. And then when she realized the shepherd wanted her to do something and he wasn't going to do something, she did something. She gave it to him, laid it at his feet, and then checked again. It was a wonderful little piece of problem solving. Queenie never hesitates to take things into her very long, narrow mouth. Eleanor did. Eleanor was very careful with her long snooter. Queenie is careful with it. Queenie uses it less often to examine things. Eleanor would push at door handles, nudge at me with her snooter. Queenie doesn't like to do that, but Queenie will use her nose to do things like pick up objects. Queenie quite likes to pick objects up, carry them to us, or carry them near us, drop them, and leave them alone. She doesn't chew on things, but I do have to watch her with balls of yarn. So they are both leaving their awkward teenage phase. Captain is very trustworthy in the house. Queenie is a little less so because she never really found a good system to ask us to let her out. Eleanor figured out she could sit by a door and we would notice. Queenie just runs around the house highly active. When she wants our love, when she wants to go out, when she wants a treat, it's all the same signal. So the trick with Queenie, so that she doesn't just pee on your floor, because she will. If you don't let her out, she'll solve the problem herself. That's how she looks at the world. So if you see Queenie running around a lot, you just ask her if she wants to go out. We had to be trained to this. She was not going to train our way. We adore both our dog girls. They are just more laid-back companions and less workers than the other dogs we've had because there's less work. We no longer have animals that need to be herded. The pony herds herself. Let me tell you, Roxy is still out there in the corral. She's about 20 now, we figure. And yesterday I had my son go out and hose her down because it was close to 100, which of course will make Roxy immediately take a mud bath. But it was very funny because she went out in this blazing hot sun in her dark black pony coat and laid down in the sun and sunbathed. I was scared. I thought she was dying or something. No, she was just sunbathing. You can't always explain what the pony is doing. If the pony is like anybody, she is soul partners with Queenie. They're basically the same person, just in two very different bodies. So that's what's been going on around here. The pony, by the way, Roxy, is our pasture pal. We just realized we're going to have her until we leave here. She's too old to give away. She's too old to consign to work. She loves little children. She could be a kid's pony, but we worry about her age. So she is with us. When and if we relocate in 2 years, we will find a solution then. Right now, she's our girl and we love her. Meanwhile, everything else goes on as usual. The boycotts, the LGBTQ plus lifelines. I want to give some thanks to Anthem Blue Cross. California apparently passed a law recently. I haven't been notified of this by my board, but they passed a law that everybody in healthcare has to do this class on gender. I have to tell you, it's a really good class. The reason it's good is I knew what all the people they interviewed were going to say. And I have a lot of empathy for that because in a lot of places, as an older woman, if I substituted the word woman for gay, queer, bi, whatever, trans, I would understand exactly what they were saying. And what I saw going on was a call for healthcare in America to be more humane and more sensitive to the individual. I don't know if this training is going to make that happen. I think it depends on which healthcare you're in. I think certain aspects of healthcare, they train the individual to be insensitive because they are afraid that they will emotionally fall apart if they're too sensitive. I'm in mental health. We're supposed to be sensitive. I really enjoyed the training. What I found incredibly helpful in it was they started explaining the terminology. I don't know if LGBTQA, I hope I'm getting everybody plus, people realize that if you're not in that group, it's actually pretty hard to learn all the words and the terms. And I've spent years waiting for someone to give me those explanations. So I really enjoyed the course because I finally learned the differences, and I've really needed that for years. In terms of treating that whole community, I've been doing it since I worked in the prison. That was really my first big time exposure to it. And it was a great experience for me because it really is the truth of what I do. We meet people where they are. And if you can't handle where somebody is, you can say to a patient, I don't think we're going to be able to work well together. You can say that because it's only fair to the patient to say we disagree on some fundamentals. At any rate, my thanks to Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield for making us take the course. And they said, you have to do it by August 9th and you've got to do it every year. But great. I am really happy about that. I will have to see if any more information on that comes through. But I sat down and took it. They said, this is a 2-hour course. No, it's not. It was about a 4-hour course for me. The website was buggy. I had to keep reloading, but it's worth its weight in gold. No, I don't have a link to it because I can't give you a link. You have to be in healthcare and part of Anthem to get it. But I'm deeply grateful, and I just wanted to put that in. For those of you who wonder, do we train in this? Oh, yes, and I'm really glad about this. Meanwhile, you can see the community resources, the books I've used. This is for my knitting and crocheting mainly. And all the skills and techniques links, my link tree. You can see the phone number of the USC Law Students Project to help people going through immigration court so that they don't get picked up by ICE in the courtroom. They get a chance to actually get tried. All right. In the meantime, you can see the calendar of events in the Santa Clarita Valley for people that are yarny. You can see my upcoming races where I'm sitting here wondering why oh, no, that's right. August 16th. We're good. I've got one next month. And CFR, I'm going to try and get to it. I guess it's going to have to be next week. Minerva gets the last word. Since I'm talking about the dogs, Minerva is leaning against her favorite pillow, which has her mantra, which is, though she be but little, she is fierce. Don't tell her she's not little. She's quite big. But she wanted me to include some of her favorite memories of her favorite dogs. So there are her kitten pictures meeting Baron and Blankets and Eleanor. Let me tell you right now, Baron always just treated her the way Captain does. They treat her as though she's simply another being living in the house. They don't understand her, but they're on neutrally friendly, amicable terms. Minerva used to go to Blankets and treat her like her mommy, and as you can see in the picture, curl up right by her tummy like a kitten would. Blankets simply hated this. She's hiding her face behind her bowl. That's not a coincidence. Her eyes are rolled up. She's tolerating it. Blanket, like all the shepherds I've had, found my cats simply weird. My collies find them disgusting. Eleanor was always clear that Minerva was some kind of abomination of nature, but she left her alone. Queenie still tries to play with her, but when she gets too close to her, you can see Queenie getting creeped out too. But Minerva, as her last word, she wanted to talk about how dogs and cats getting along have been an enormous part of our lives here on the farm and my life previous to the farm. And they're still doing it, and Minerva has fond memories of her dogs. That's because my animals, oh, you're going to love this segue. My animals are a community with us and with each other. And when we take care of the community and we are tolerant of each other, we are taking care of the individual. Having said that, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.